Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Caroline MacDonald, and I've a great pleasure today in introducing our two speakers. So from Coles, we have Christine Connor, who's the Head of Talent Acquisition. And Christine's been following, and she's in the midst of a 3-year journey of transformation with Coles, with the end goal to transform their talent acquisition function from a reactive to a more proactive model. And where that's taken Christine is to lead her team through many different areas, including partnering with an RPO, enhancing the capability in her hiring team, and building their talent brand. And then for Singtel, we have Acting Head of Talent Acquisition, Sharon Tan. And Sharon's going to be speaking to you about today about the central operating structure for their talent acquisition function, which where the goal has been to build their talent acquisition function internally, making it more consistent and reliant across the entire group, and also with a refocus on talent brand as well. So please join me in welcoming Christine Connor to the stage.
Be a bit careful coming up those stairs because I don't want any accidents. But firstly, hi, I'm Christine, and I see so many people in the audience today, so I'd just like to thank you for your interest in learning about Coles' transformation strategy. I would just like to say that we are in a transformation phase, so certainly not at the end of the journey, and certainly not everything is solved and resolved. So I'll talk to you a little bit about where we are at in life. I think in terms of Coles' story, it's quite unique insofar as there was one point in time where, in the Coles Myer days, we actually used to be a leader in the industry. PageUp, we were one of PageUp's first clients, and I think at the time we probably had a lot of influence with PageUp in terms of how that product might be developed and where it was going. PageUp are now very successful, and a number of you already have PageUp as an applicant tracking system. But what happened is, obviously, Coles Myer was sold off. Coles, as a business, wasn't doing so well, and so our own business had to go through its own transformation. And in that process, what happens is the back-end functions often don't get the level of attention that they need. And so what that left us in is a position where we're actually probably now lagging behind in the industry. So in terms of the way we were, when I joined the team in 2013, we had a talent acquisition, well, we had recruitment function, as it was known then, in 4 different areas of the business. So we had our store support, and store support in corporate language is kind of like head office, and that reported into our shared services environment. We had our team member operations, so for those of you that might be more familiar with checkout chicks or shelf stackers, and that actually sat in HR for the general manager of operations in that area. We had graduate recruitment that sat in OD, and then we have IT contractor management, which sat in, we had contractor management that sat way out there in IT. The one thing that did join us all together was PageUp, but that was pretty much the only thing that was joining us together. So we have an overall goal in Coles to become a talent acquisition function, a one-stop shop. So no matter what sort of talent you need to purchase, you can come to us to buy it all. We're certainly not there yet, but we have joined some areas together. Store support and operations sit in the one function, and we're moving towards getting graduate in over the course of this year. Today, however, what I'll be going to talk to you about is our transformation in the store support centre, because I think it's most relevant to the audience. So what was the opportunity? We looked at a number of things, but certainly speed was an issue in our store support centre. We're in a massive war for talent in the retail industry. It's a global war for talent, particularly in the areas of supply chain. Because you imagine how big our DCs are in Australia. We've got the biggest DCs. We've also in retail, our competitor Woolworths and ourselves have got the biggest stores from a retail perspective. So really from a talent point of view, we need to go out for a global search. But that is a very competitive environment globally. So our speed to market was quite slow. We had a consistent volume of positions over the past 5 years preceding 2013 when I took on the role. So we were about 750 positions each year. We only had 4 FTE to manage those. So it was largely transactional environment. So the days the positions were open were higher than we would have liked. We had some process inefficiencies, probably lots of process inefficiencies, candidate engagement was very low and very limited proactive sourcing, if any at all. So the impact of that was obviously on a quality perspective. So we were only in the active market, so only hiring the right-ish person for a job. And you've all heard of the post and pray strategy. Well, we were firmly entrenched in that post and pray strategy and nothing else. And in fact, Seek was our only channel to market in terms of finding applicants. The other piece was because we only had 4 FTEs, we had limited screening and assessment. So quite often line managers would receive a long list of candidates, so maybe 10 resumes through bulk compiling page up, which was just frightening to look at. And the first real level of assessment, whether those candidates were right for the job, was when they came in for an interview, which was then very frustrating from a hiring manager's perspective because some of them could have been way offbeat and a complete waste of time. We had inconsistent messages in the market and year 1 attrition was high, which I'll talk to you a little bit about later on. So all of those contributed to hiring pain for our hiring managers and also money spent. So we were also dealing with in excess of 48 different agencies. Whilst our agency usage was low, so it was only about 16% of the hires, it was low. It was mainly in our managerial positions, in our critical skill sets, where it had higher spend, and that was really where we should have known those people in the market. So what we really looked at was, with that money, can we actually reinvest that and do things a different way to get a better outcome? And so that's the journey that I was set upon at the time in 2013. So we heard this morning that data is king, so the first port of call that I went to was to go and look for some data. Problem there was we had lost all of our internal capability to manage page up over a period of time. Our headcount had been depleted and our ability to manage the system was quite poor. So any data that I was getting from it was probably unreliable and perhaps inaccurate. We'd had a previous RPO organisation at one point in our history, so we had remnants of what that organisation looked like, but even those were depleting as well. Things like time to hire, average time to hire, or average time a job was open, used 2 different words, 2 different phrases. One I'd get 40, one I'd get 65, and no one could explain to me what the data meant and why we were getting different stories. Source of hire, I remember internal, one point of data I had 11%, and then when it re-looked at it, it was 21%. And no one could tell me, again, why am I getting these 2 pieces of different data? So we weren't in a great way from a data perspective, so it was really hard to tell how we were performing. And in addition to that, we didn't have any ability at all to measure qualitative stuff like candidate experience, hiring manager experience, and quality of hire once they were in the role. As I mentioned, we were doing about 750 positions each year. And the interesting part about that piece was Coles, throughout its original transformation journey from 2008, wasn't actually increasing headcount. And for the most part, it was decreasing headcount. And yet our recruitment stayed the same. So that kind of provided an interesting opportunity to look further. And what we found out was that there was a relatively high level of turnover, or higher than we would have liked in the first year of employment. And what that said to me was, maybe we're doing something wrong at the recruiting end. Maybe there's greater opportunities for greater levels of assessment, for being honest with people upfront about what it's like to work at Coles. It's pretty hard and fast. It's retail, high volume, low margin, impact today, about your decisions show on your figures tomorrow. So it's a hard and fast environment, and it's not for the faint-hearted and certainly not for everyone. And so I was thinking maybe, there was something in the recruitment process that we could impact, and that if I couldn't make people stay 365 days, or actually less than that, to reduce that first-year turnover. So that was another touch point for us as well. Then we surveyed team members, both hiring managers and new managers joining the organisation. And what we learned from that was that hiring managers said, I use agencies because they can provide me the candidates that don't go to Seek, the ones that aren't actually looking. And they also do more screening and shortlisting. And they provide me with 3 candidates. You provide me with a list this long. From a candidate perspective, again, the feedback was disappointing and candidates suggested that the process was too slow. It was very hard to balance up other opportunities with the potential of maybe working at Coles because Coles couldn't make a hiring decision in a quick way. And they were made to feel less important by having to ring and ask for updates all of the time. So not such a great story. From an employer brand perspective, we actually redesigned our Coles career site in 2013. This is how it looks today. Where the Coles career site was redesigned was in the operations area. So it was largely redesigned so you could go and find a job as a checkout chick in Coles. It doesn't speak to any other talent audiences, and we're really on a path to get it to speak to a number of talent audiences. We also have inconsistent branding. So this was our LinkedIn page. We have updated it a little bit now, but our LinkedIn page doesn't look the same as our careers page. We're not sending the same messages and the same stories out to our audience. We found their old ads on Seek. So this is a very old Coles logo. It was still active and still being utilised on Seek. We still spoke about transformation. In fact, we were speaking about transformation right up until about 18 months ago. We'd already transformed into a very successful business and had moved out of that phase. But our recruitment ads still were asking people to come and help us transform. And then inconsistent messages again. So this ad talks to the fact that it's like working for a $12 billion startup, I think it says, retail startup. There were ads that talked about all different things. So externally, our message in the market was confusing. Internally, I think we had a lot of great messages. My favourite one is proud to be Coles. I wouldn't want to shop anywhere else. I wouldn't want to work anywhere else. But we had others. We had our values. We had our ways of working. We had the voice of Coles that was the voice of what it was like to work in Coles. And we had an unlaunched employee value proposition. A lot of great messages, but a lot to hang on to from an internal perspective. So what really was the message there? So I set out to convince our HR leadership team that we needed to change, and we needed to change from a recruitment function to a talent acquisition function. And I think that was, in itself, one of the bigger challenges, because I think recruitment is just one small part of a talent acquisition function, and it's something that we do. And one of the hardest challenges, if this is a little reflection on one of the pieces of feedback, one of the HR general managers said to me, "No, Christine, I think you're wrong. I don't think that the recruitment industry has changed at all over the past 5 years," when I suggested that the advent of LinkedIn had significantly disrupted the industry, that was the secret source of recruitment agencies is no longer the secret source anymore because we all had access to that database. And he said to me, "Oh no, Christine, I don't think it's changed at all." And I had to convince him that actually what hadn't changed was Coles, not the external industry. So I said to him, "Oh really? Can you tell me then, where do I find those jobs that used to be advertised by Morgan and Banks that were in The Age, in the early general news on Saturday morning?" And he looked at me and he said, "I don't know." And I tell you what, I was damn sure they didn't ask me where do you go to find them, because I couldn't answer that myself either. So, but it did help me in I guess, getting him to think differently about what the industry had changed into. So really my message to them was recruitment is now boring. Building relationships and communities is key. Not everyone's looking for a job. Our customers, and at Coles it truly is, our customers are our candidates. Everyone goes to Coles. Who shops at Coles? Sometimes, all the times. Everybody in this room goes to Coles. So everybody is part of our audience. There's never a truer story for that. And so, you know, my phrase was the new recruitment is talent acquisition. I have shamelessly plagiarised 2 slides in this presentation. So I'm going to put my hand up to the next one and thank Gareth for your work. You're familiar with this one, a long time ago. So Gareth and I did some work early on in the piece. And again, to influence the HR leadership team, I put together a roadmap for talent acquisition and said what that might look like. And clearly, we were right here in Recruitment 2.0. It's a really interesting article on the Electronic Recruitment Exchange, if anybody is actually a member of the Electronic Recruitment Exchange. Just, well, you don't even have to be a member actually, you just go and Google it and type it in, but just type in Recruitment 2.0. And it's a really interesting series of articles that take you to Recruitment 4, which is, you know, where we want to be. But really we were here, and I said to the leadership team, we really need to be springboarded into Recruitment 3, because that's the area we're competing in today and where we're losing out to competition with other organisations who actually are operating in that state. So we then partnered with, developed a strategic partnership with Harrier Human Capital. I prefer personally not to call it an RPO because we haven't outsourced anything and shipped it off to Bangalore. We've got a very sophisticated strategic partnership, and Harrier have been very helpful to us in actually bringing us to this point. So we now have recruitment metrics, we now understand our performance, and we've now got some good stories to tell around what we're doing. I also shamelessly plagiarised this slide, but it's a great slide. Thanks, LinkedIn. So many of you will have seen this slide before, I'm sure. Yes? Who's seen it? Yes. I'm sure your business development manager puts it in your QBR on a regular basis. But it's a great slide, and again, after setting the roadmap, I thought that this was really a great slide to set out tasks around what it is that we needed to achieve over a 3-year period. So here we are in 2015, and we heard from Pat and Brendan this morning of LinkedIn of the importance of HR and talent acquisition coming together. And I think one of the great things that we did in our organisation is that we really engaged the HR counterparts. So our talent acquisition team doesn't sit together as a team anymore. They actually go and sit in the team with the HR business partners. So they're close to the action, they're close to the needs, and they're close to the hiring managers. They go to their weekly meetings and they're a part of that team. Of course, we have our own meetings as well, but certainly they're very embedded with the HR team. This year, it's been all about also supporting our recruiters to build their internal capabilities. And we've done that in a number of ways. Again, I'm not plugging LinkedIn, but I have had a big reliance on LinkedIn supporting us, and LinkedIn have provided us with a lot of training on how we can best utilise Recruiter and what we can do there. We have a overseas function through our Harrier model that also enables talent lists and talent mapping, so the recruiters have ready access to lists of people that they can tap in the passive market. We're now, while Seek is still a big part of our life, it is not the only part of our life anymore, and we are looking at other opportunities to advertise in different areas and attract different people. And the big piece that I'm working on at the moment that I find really exciting is working on our talent brand and really understanding what is the messaging that we're going to send out into the market. So that will see me through to the end of 2015. So by the end of 2015, I can clearly put my hand up and say we've moved from a developing function and we've now built the foundations. And in fact, in some respects, we're in the foundational phase at the moment as well, because one of the really exciting things that I'm happy to be working on at Coles is that we're already collaborating with our marketing department, and there's never been any, certainly while I've been in the role, never been any opposition around the talent brand space. They're really engaged, came to all of our tendering processes to choose a creative partner. They're now using that creative partner for other internal activities outside our recruitment advertising. So it's kind of a really exciting time if you like doing those sorts of things. So here I am, driving our Coles online truck and driving the strategy. I was going to see if LinkedIn could put an online poll out as to whether my hair's better dark or light, but I kind of thought then I might not like the answer to that if it was a live poll, so maybe you can tell me privately later on. But that should actually say FY16, but this is really the plan from a foundational perspective in FY16. We're going to fix our Coles careers so it speaks to many different talent audiences. As I mentioned at the moment, to me, with all respect to the internal people that developed it, it kind of looks like a dirty, great big jobs board and a place that your team members go to express their interest in working for Coles, and we want it to be something else. With that, we're going to start looking at our social strategy with different channels to market and really start pushing content out in front of people so Coles is an engaging place to work. as a result of that, increase our referrals and internals. One of our 7 strategic pillars is to build great careers, so really having our internal proposition right to support building great careers. Embed the diversity strategy, particularly gender diversity, as it's something that Coles could do better at. We're having entry-level redesign, so that's more automated, but more importantly, and the part that really does excite me, again we heard this morning, is to manage the analytics side of things. I'm really excited about data, not actually producing it, somebody else can do that, but actually understanding how I can use that to make things differently. So all of that, though, needs to be underpinned by our talent brand, and that's what puts that piece together. So until I get that done this year, I don't think I can do any of the other things, but hope to have that done by the 30th of June. And then where we're heading, 2016, we'll have completed the foundational stage of our transformation journey, and 2017, our aim is to be truly strategic talent acquisition function. So that's a bit about Coles. Thank you for having me this afternoon.
Thank you. My turn. I'm Sharon, and I head up recruitment for the Singtel Group. So just a little bit of information about the Singtel Group. It is obviously a Singapore-based company, and some of you who know me realize that I probably used to head up recruitment for a bank here in Australia. Took that journey for 5 years into a transformational. So the 3 themes today for transform, connect, and inspire. Through that journey, it made me inspired to start my own company called Stars Consulting with a colleague of mine. And the connectivity, me being half Singaporean and half Australian, because my mom's Australian and my father was Singaporean, meant that I wanted to connect different companies. Okay, so the Singtel and the Optus Group, so that's the connectivity. And I think this is the first time for the Singtel Group to actually start on a transformational journey within talent acquisition. It used to be called recruiting, and we actually changed it to talent acquisition very purposely because we were changing the mindset of the team. So that's me. So let me tell you a little bit about Singtel. Okay, Singtel is like Telstra, okay, but it's Singapore and it's a lot larger, let's be honest. And it owns Optus, okay? So if some of you think, oh, Optus, Singtel is the parent group. It has 3 main businesses. The first business is the Singtel Group, and the second business is Optus, and the third group is another business called NCS, okay? NCS is very similar to a professional services firm like PwC, so the different types of people that it hires are quite distinct. Now, just so that you know a little bit about the journey, this started 11 months ago. And it was an organization that really had a mature team in Optus, let's be honest, but it didn't have any maturity in the Singapore-based teams. And you actually had 3 distinct teams, okay, and 3 distinct recruitment teams. And the Singtel Group, which was the parent group, was actually a group that had only started 6 months before anything else. And the Optus team was 3 years in its journey. So you had 3 different teams that didn't know one another at all. You had no correlation of candidates who just wanted a job within the Singtel Group or the Optus Group, no sharing at all. There were 3 distinct ATSs as well. Okay, there was PageUp in Australia, there was PeopleSoft in NCS, and there was Excel spreadsheets in Singtel. All right? That's how bad it was in a way. I wouldn't say bad. That's how far we've come in the last 11 months. And there was no consistent process. So, you know, me as a candidate could have been talked to 11 times by 11 different people, still no further whether I had a job or not. And someone else could have had 1 chat, 1 job. And it was also a team that didn't really know its service proposition. Do we hire contractors? Do we hire regular? Do we hire grads? What do we do? So it was a business that came to us to say, anything, as long as we want to hire, even statement of work people, right? Come in as contractors, statement of work, oh, you have to go to the recruitment team. So my first job actually was really coming in at the and talking to the CA and the management team to say, actually, what do you want from a talent acquisition team? What is it that you want? What's the service proposition? And at the same time, what do we go out in the market and say what we want to do, all right? And this was probably the problem statement for us as a group. And I think the first 3 months also was, for me, problematic in really not understanding what the number was. So if you come to the Optus team, There was a robust conversation. Yeah, we're doing this and so on, and we're doing this in these markets. And then they became the champions because they know what they're doing, and we now need to transport that to Singapore. So this is a little bit of the landscape 11 months ago, okay? Similar to Christine, the journey is still a journey, all right? I'm hoping that I'm not on a bus. I'd like to say I'm actually in a car, okay? But it's at different stages of the journey, because each time you talk to different line managers as well, for them, their wants outweigh what their needs are, okay? So what happens is the journey for us as a group meant as a business as well as a talent acquisition function. And the talent acquisition function is about 60 people. So it's not a small number of people, okay? But it's a number that really had no guidelines or expectations for the function and the business. So you could have someone who's a manager in Australia and then a manager in Singapore, but the roles are so totally different. KPIs are so totally different. One is a very administrative person, and one is actually really a talent acquisition person. As I said, inconsistent hiring experience. So we were getting feedback from the line, as well as from candidates, as well as, I guess for us, you know, we have a product. We sell a product, mobile phones, we're in digital space and so on. So, you know, for us to be seeing our name and for the line managers to saying that the hiring experience is terrible, no one wants to come and join us or even want to buy our product, was really quite soul-searching. Poor resource optimization. I mean, how many of you, particularly for us in the Singtel team, there were 9 people in the team, and their recs average about 150 to 200 each, okay? And that for me is like, what? Are you crazy? 1 to 45 is already, you know, but they were averaging, and then I've got the line managers that saying they're not fast enough, and I'm like, of course they're not fast enough, they're crazy, they're dying, okay? Conversations like that, okay? And when I say this is impossible, this is ridiculous, they say, well, we're not giving you any more headcount, and I'm like, well, then we're not hiring. That didn't go down too well, did it? So for me, it then said, all right, low credibility with the business. Okay, who the heck is this Sharon Tan? She says that the team's not recruiting. I'm like, well, because we don't have the headcount. You also have to understand the journey for the team is they didn't hire recruiters. They hired administrative people pushing paper, and they expected then to recruit. And so the agency usage in Singapore was extremely high. In Optus, because it was a more mature team that had been in existence, by far acing all its targets. Okay. Low governance and potential risk to the business, no matter how many times I had to be called into audit and explain why this happened. Offer letters got sent to different people, wrong offers, and like, oh my God, this is terrible. You know, I didn't sign up for this. And unsustainable and inefficient model. For us, it's like, you know, we're recruiting. We probably average on 6,000 hires a year. Okay, it's about 30,000 as a group, 6,000 hires. So for us, just really not even understanding how many we were recruiting was a mind. So this is the roadmap, similar to Christine's. Got less slides. So for us, it was really, okay, what do we want to stand for as a team? So come together as a team, and I've got some of the Optus team here, the managers, so you can actually talk to them. And for them, it's also a proud moment, because this is the first time that we're seeing our brand out there. So it's a really talking point for us, okay? To say, look, we're going to management board, and we're going to say, this is what we'll stand for. We need a huge shift in the operating model. It will be a team that will support our global recruitment focus, right? So it's not just Australia or Singapore. We have offices in the UK, in the States, in India, in the Philippines. Now we need to pull it all together. So we looked at our operating model. What do we want to look for, okay? What do we want to stand for? What do we actually want to do? Do we want to do it ourselves? Do we want to potentially RPO some of it out? Do we want to keep it all in-house? These were all conversations, because if we wanted to do this, then it was a compelling reason from a commercial standpoint to say, okay, give me this and I will give you this back. And this was the whole piece with the team to say, are we signing up for this, okay? Then we looked at the team structure and capability. And to be quite honest, we had to move some people out. Did we move them out of the talent acquisition team? Yes. But did we keep them in the organization? Yes, because there was continuity. But it meant, look, they are not right for this role and the transformation of this team, but we move them into either an HRBP role or we move them into a support function that still supports our needs because they understand what we need. So we had a lot of that. Now, on hindsight, someone asked me, could I have done that faster as a team? Yes, okay? But we're talking about people's lives, and we're talking about continuity of ensuring that the business bought into the model. So that's the piece that I would say, if we had influenced that faster, the journey probably would have been faster. But look, we're 11 months into the journey, and it's really been quite fast already, because I'll give you some stats later on the results. Policy, there was no policy. No employee referral. So when we talk about employee referral, it's like, well, what? You know, can I just give a resume and someone gets hired and I get money? It's like, no, that's not an employee referral. So it's really educating the business. And also coming up with a policy to say, look, if someone in Optus hires or refers somebody to Singapore, can we have cross-referrals? Absolutely. So it's working through with finance, because they don't do cross-charges, or they didn't do that before. Now they're starting to do that. But some of you have gone through this journey as well. It's painful, right? Because it's operationally downstream, and you think, just make it happen, okay? Process and metrics, didn't have any, okay? So for me, it's like, I know they were hiring like 1 to 200 or 1 to 140 recs. Why? Because I see that number. And I have a person, this is a true story, because I fly up to Singapore 2 weeks of every 5 weeks I'm in Singapore. And you have this manager who I've known for years and years because he was a recruiter in my previous life. He's hiring someone climbing up the ladder, okay? So someone that is just, I know someone 2 days a week climbing up the ladder to fix satellite things. And then the next role he's hiring is someone at the 200K mark. These are the type of profiles that the managers are, and to me it's like, how can you do that as a TA? You have to really start to segregate. So for us, it's process and metrics. And I think for us, the biggest piece also then to the team is also, we are a commercial function. Like this morning, we were talking about LinkedIn telling you we're there to help you win. We are there to help the business win, because if you hire the wrong person, then we're back to square one, because we hire again, right? So for us, it's influencing that decision of the hiring manager to say, really seriously, are you really serious you want to hire this person? Because really seriously, this other person's better. So conversations like that, okay, the influence. And also for us, the metrics that we had to say, okay, how much is it costing you? You don't know. And they didn't know, okay? So these are sort of things that we didn't have an ATS, okay? We had to manually pull. Did it cost us an arm and a leg? Yes. Did it cost my managers and some of the team sleepless nights? I'm sure, because Sharon wants this and we need to show it to the business, because there needed to be a baseline. Now, when I actually showed the first baseline to the business, I had to confess and say, I'm probably 20 or 30% out. And like, why so much? Well, because there's no ground zero to start off with. So we went with that number. And to be honest, I probably went with a number bigger than it was, okay? Because we have to show potential results, and it was better to show bigger numbers to begin with, okay? Confess, have to confess. No one knew otherwise anyway, okay? And seriously, supply and management system, all right? When Christine says it talks about 60 over agencies, we were working with 200 over agencies, okay? And some agencies, were they on our panel? Kind of, we don't even know who's on our panel. They told us they're on our panel. I'm like, are you sure you're on our panel? Because I don't have anything signed with you. But it's stuff like that, okay? Simple things. And I'm like, deep breath, okay? So, FY15, okay, has been in the last 11 months for us as a team, building foundation, consolidation, aligning, and focus. Now, some of you who know me know I'm extremely impatient. So for me, something like this maybe could have taken people maybe 2 years. For us, it's taken probably 7 to 8 months. We had a lot of projects on the go. I'm also happy to say, as of yesterday, we put in global SAP success factors. Yay! I know, we have a few hiccups. I'm actually here in this conference giving you a talk, but we went live yesterday, 1 ATS, took us 7 months, okay? So we've been doing this journey probably in the last 11 months, but SAP SuccessFactors as the first function in HRIS system is the first function that's gone live for the Singtel group, so we went live yesterday. So this is now the first platform where we will start to get our analytics, we will start to drive the ATS numbers. We have the first time the Singtel Group career website, okay, which is exciting for us. It's been a tremendous journey, and I must thank the team as well as the Singtel team in Singapore, because it's really been a transformational piece to say, why is it that we want to do this? Now, there have been some people not on the journey, and I was quite hard about that in the first few months of change management, saying, it is a bus, it is a journey, come along. And I remember that conversation with the team. It is a journey. Some people will not make the journey. Some people will actually have to have bus stops, and some people will pick up along the way. And we've had to do that, let's be honest. For us, continuing at FY16, we'll be embedding and driving further cost savings for the first time. And this is a double-edged sword when I got it. This happened about 2 months ago when I had to present to the CEO and the management board to say what we've been doing. Because seriously, for the 11 months, what have you guys been doing? Tell us what you've been doing. So we had quite a few results. Our employee referral program, I'm happy to say, 7 months into the journey, almost direct line savings, $5 million. In terms of our direct hiring, in terms of not using some of the agencies, almost 1.5 million savings just in 7 months. So these are the lovely numbers that these sort of things are starting to give. It's exciting. Will it continue? No, because usually it's the first 2 years that gives you all this driving stuff, right? But for us, the next year will be further cost savings of another 20%. Is that going to kill us? Maybe, but we're going to certainly try. It's also for the first time the budgets does not sit with the business anymore. Up until 2 months ago, recruitment budgets sat within the business, and when we provided the oversight, the management board said, we're convinced that you're a team that's going places and you know what you're doing. We are now giving you all the recruitment budgets. So that's helpful. It also is scary because it means then that we're now really in the driver's seat to drive that 20%. If we don't make it, it's really us, yeah? And then I think the third-year journey for us is increasing the execution to increase overall quality and reduce costs and continuous improvement, right? That's the journey that the team are signed up for. I think the interesting things at how we've gotten some of this is also secondment opportunities. We've managed to move some of our Optus team up into Singapore. We've managed to go out to the market and look for people in the market and so on. And I think just give you a little bit of a snapshot in management focus for the 10 months. And when I say management focus, this has been the talent acquisition management team, okay? And what we've been committing to our team. In our policies, we've been driving 3 key policies in recruiting and selection, referring a friend, which is our employee referral, and types of employment, because as an organization, we have not been clear what types of people we hire, and that has caused a lot of confusion, okay? So we've been very clear about that, our contractor policy and so on. So when we go out to the business and when they say they want to hire someone, the conversation that we're having is a lot more robust and is a lot more engaged rather than I just want to hire someone, okay? The service proposition for the team has been probably the biggest one as a takeaway and the most proud I've been in terms of understanding what it is that the team does. In Singapore, in Asia, we say chapalang. Chapalang means you do everything, right? And this was a team that basically did everything. So we're not saying we're not doing everything, but we want to ensure when we do it well. So our service proposition has been key in saying, this is what we do, this is not what we do. But if you want us to do it, we can scope it and see how we can support rather than we can't do it and we don't have the headcount. So it's a different conversation. The sourcing, we have a global RFI out at the moment, which, you know, in history, we were told RFIs in this group takes 2 years. We are going to nail it in 4 months, even if it kills us. We're almost there. We're in our commercials now. We have a global interviewing standard. So where you interview with us, whether it be in Singapore, in the UK, or Australia, the same experience is to be had. Are we there yet? No. Okay. Are we getting there? We hope so. This is now the engagement now with the business to say, what is it that you want? What is it that we want to engage with, and how do we want to perform? And we are also doing offers and onboarding in a consistent manner. So we actually have a team which we are putting. When we say we outsource, we don't outsource, but we're putting it in Singapore as a function to do all our administration. Okay, so we're taking some of the administration that we had in Australia and putting it in with our team in Singapore. The aspects, I guess, for us that have been key in driving some of this have been open communication and change plans. It's been the roles and responsibilities, and probably an opt-in, opt-out, where what do you want to do? Is this what you want to do? This is the career advancement. This is the expectations. the lifting of capability. And as I said, this is probably the difficult one because there are some people that we have had that we think absolutely fits the culture and absolutely want to keep, but maybe not at the right level. So we've been going through that journey from a training perspective, helping them get to the right level that we want, and the organizational structure as we do M&As, as we take on more work. That's how do we support those businesses. OneHR is the word that we use for, actually it's now called HR Central. Okay, it's the system that we went live yesterday with SAP SuccessFactors. We have the dashboard of metrics, which is the first time the business actually have a commercial dashboard. Speed, time, candidate experience, so like what you actually heard this morning also in some of the sessions, the Airbnb one as well, where we actually survey candidates that have gone through the experience with us but have not had an offer. What was the experience like? And we take that as an educational piece to say, look, this is some of the verbatim information that we got that doesn't really look so good. And I think key for us is also managing with the team and with line managers. I'll have to say, I've been quite honest with some of the line managers that seriously should be interviewing, okay? And now we've actually had some of the mandate from the business to say, okay, yes, this line manager needs to be taken aside and coached before we let them loose again, because they really do us a disservice. Because people wanted to join us, and then they got into the interview and they say, now I really don't want to, because if that's the manager, I really don't want to come and join you guys. So it's been a continuous educational journey, yeah? I'm not a wallflower, as you can imagine, so I have those robust conversations. I have no qualms having that. I have information now, which before it was airy, fairy, this is what I think. Now I actually have information armed with information from whether it's the business or the commercials to say, this is a different conversation. And I think this is now the next stage where we're lifting the capability of the TA team to say, this is now the commercial reason and your commercial remit to help the business win, yeah? The assessments, as I said, and social media. So we're at LinkedIn. So, I forgot this. So our success indicators, and this is the first time also that we've had to the team similar KPIs, where faster time to hire, so overall cost to hires to start coming down. So I won't give information out because that's kind of IP, but next year, or if any of you actually want any of this information, just come directly to me. The overall cost per hire has really come down astronomically, particularly in Singapore for us, okay? But that's also because the correlation of the lift of capability. So the business will say to me, yeah, but your payroll costs are higher now because you've got more expensive recruiters. And I'm like, yeah, admittedly, but my overall cost is still coming down, so I'm actually commercially giving you better service, okay? Improves quality of hires. So how we've managed that with the business is we're tracking short-term attrition. So we're basically saying your short-term attrition is coming down. I'm no longer having to hire as many people in the background. So in a way, it's correlating to me, the people are getting better, we hope. And the improved customer service to the business, where we are now actually having the business engage with the talent acquisition team and say, come sit with us as a business, hear what we're trying to do, rather than secondhand information to the HR BP who then gives it to you. So that table, or that seat at the table is very much there. As I said, we're at LinkedIn. I had to show this. As an organization, right, social media plays a huge role. And we've been engaged, or we've been working directly with Alfred, our relationship manager and his team, really to see what we can use as part of a recruiter opportunity to enhance the brand. And we're very, very happy to say that, we've exceeded our target. Now, this is something that we all know as recruiters, but to the business, they don't. So when I had to present this, they say, well, what does this mean? So what I said is, it means that we have more people following us, okay, and we need to translate that following to an engagement piece to enhance our brand. We're coming to the stage now where we've even got the business and potentially the heads of business wanting to even put their profiles on LinkedIn and be ambassadors, where before they would say, if I put my profile up, means people are going to come and want to recruit me or my team and so on. So the conversation really has changed in the last 6 months, and we'll continue to do that. So in closing, my last slide to say what we're going to be doing for FY16 as a team. We will be enhancing social media. So this is probably the first time also as an organization, which is surprising, a telco organization, where we're going to be using Facebook and Twitter. We are going to be starting our talent pools. So this is also a team that we have been given a tick in the box to start a sourcing team, which will not hold recs, but will be starting to talent map and source for our teams. We've got processes and metrics now, probably coming out of our ears, actually now to decipher what we want to show the business. We continue to look at our branding and recruitment marketing, and I think we've actually got sign-off on a headcount for a recruiting marketing person. That's the importance of so on and what we're going to be doing. And then the team structure and capability to say, look, I think there's opportunities to do more and more, but whether or not we have the right headcount. And our initiatives will be continuing on the change journey, so lots of projects upcoming. Starting of that dedicated sourcing team, which I'm really excited about, okay? This is probably the holy grail when you actually have a team and someone gives you the team headcount of 2 or 3 people just to go and do that. That for me is exciting. We continue to do secondments and peer mentoring. So Singapore tends to be a location that people want to go to. So we say, okay, any of the Australians want to go, and we cross over and so on. We work with Alfred and his team to look at potential project plans, because we want to do a lot of exciting things, but we don't have the headcount. So we leverage on LinkedIn and other exciting people that can help us with that. TAO. TAO is an acronym called the Talent Admin Team. So that's the team that we're starting in Singapore to take on all the lovely admin, centralized in one location for us. And potentially the commercial metrics of the talent acquisition team and business, so that we have a scorecard for each of our teams, right down to the most junior level. That's the journey so far. Okay, thank you.